Back in the Day is brought to you by the University of Findlay Television. The Hancock Historical Museum is a local history museum located in Findlay, Ohio. The museum collects, preserves, and makes accessible to the public through exhibits and programs historical buildings, artifacts, and archival material which reflect the history of Hancock County. The Clyde Findlay Area Credit Union invites all Findlay area and Hancock County residents to experience the credit union difference. The Community Foundation is a vehicle to enhance the quality of life in Hancock County by using a variety of funds entrusted to the stewardship by people, corporations, and organizations of various means to address community problems and opportunities. The Community Foundation has a broad grant program available to all charitable organizations in Hancock and serves all portions of the population.
An annual promise is being kept by the descendants of German immigrants living in Jenera, Ohio. On the morning of September 17, 1831, they vowed that upon their rescue from their shipwrecked vessel, they would forever keep it as a holy day. The United States was in its infancy. It was now only 50 years old. The government slowly carved states out of the old Northwest Territory. Ohio became the 17th state to join the Union on March 1, 1803. More importantly in Ohio's history was the signing of the Treaty of Ghent in 1814. This treaty finally put an end to the destructive war between the United States and Great Britain. It also marked the end of the Native American Indian tribes inhabiting the area as they were driven to live on reservations in the unsettled West. The end result was the opening of the Ohio lands for settlement that were safe from any incursions. As word traveled, immigrants from Europe flocked to the fertile lands and to freedom in the United States. In the spring of 1830, in the village of Radelbach, Germany, Johann Adam Truck lobbied his friends and family to move to America. They sought the independence from Germany because of compulsory military service, poor economic conditions, unbearable government regulations, and social immobility as a result of 30 years of war and plague.
The folks there were mildly unhappy with their situation. It's in the era after the Napoleonic Wars. The economy was difficult. Taxes were high. Most people were either living on small parcels of land or they were working as artisans of some sort, making harness or running small shops, that kind of thing.
Adding fuel to his case, Johann remarked that he had heard about the land from letters sent from other German immigrants who had moved to America in advance. They had expressed that they were inexpensive land east of Baltimore, Maryland, in Ohio. Utilizing that bit of information as evidence to support his case, Johann Truck finally convinced his family and neighbors in Radelbach to move to America. In the summer of 1830, he had decided Ohio would be their final destination.
And he thought Ohio would be a good place to go, sight unseen. So he and others, a fellow named Peter Arras and others, began to agitate among folks, say, let's go to Ohio. And by 1830, they had organized a group of over 200 people who were interested in emigration, who would take the great journey to Ohio, would probably never see Germany again, and never see their relatives, all of that, and they were ready to go.
Also among the new immigrants was Peter Arras from Brandau, who sold his family property and goods and prepared for their long journey to America. In May 1831, after several delays, over 200 Germans departed from their homes in the villages of Darmstadt in the Odenwald region. They would travel 400 miles north through Frankfurt and Bremen to the port of Bremerhaven, Germany. Along the way in Hannoverish Munden, they sold their horses and wagons and purchased boats for their final voyage north to the Weser River to the port of Bremerhaven, where they would board their designated ships for Baltimore. They arrived in Bremerhaven on July 31st, 1831, and prepared to set sail on two ships. One was a large, new constructed ship called the James Beecham. It was described by Eris as a floating palace. So big, he believed, that even the richest farmer back home couldn't get that much cloth. The British brigantine was outfitted with 2 masts and 24 sails with convenient sleeping rooms. The other vessel was a slightly smaller but seaworthy. They boarded the vessels on July 31st, 1831, and departed August 1st. The journey was to have taken 32 days, though for 12 days during their voyage there was little wind and calm seas that severely delayed the crossing. The voyagers were so far mostly pleased with the outcomes of their travel, so delighted with their opportunity that they nicknamed the James Beecham the Famous Dove, a symbol of America that offered peace and freedom from their oppressors in Germany. They were figuratively flying over the waves to America like a dove.
He did find 2 ships. We don't know the name of the one, which is lost in the mists of antiquity, but we know the name very well of the other one. Its proper name was the James Beecham, an English ship ready to sail with a cargo of passengers. Later on, the immigrants nicknamed it. They nicknamed it Die berühmte Taube in German, which means the famous dove in English.
At approximately 3 p.m. on September 16, 1831, as they approached the North American coastline, the James Beecham was caught in a strong northeastern storm. As their young and inexperienced captain lay sleeping due to excessive drinking, the fierce seas lashed against the vessel, driving it off course.
There again, I say nobody knew that they was off course, and the captain should have known had he been sober. And late at night, toward midnight, all at once, bang, they hit something. Nobody knew what it was. Water started to come into the ship, and all were frightened.
The captain assigned his untested young helmsman to guide the ship. Helpless in the storm, the helmsman steered the vessel onto a shoal 40 miles off Cape Henry, almost 17 miles east of Norfolk, Virginia, near the mouth of the Chesapeake, a well-known notorious ship graveyard. The vessel was immovable, stranding all of its passengers. In the middle of the night, the Beecham began listing and taking on water. The young helmsman and the crew prepared to escape on lifeboats. Johann Trock, a 10-year German military veteran, took control of the vessel by passing out rifles to his shipmates to keep the crew from deserting. They held the crew at gunpoint until the sailors arrived at a better plan. When the captain was awakened from his drunken sleep, he immediately ordered that the masts be cut down to stabilize the craft from the wind's battering force.
So here they are stuck on a sandbar somewhere, the ship filled with water, and then they didn't know exactly what was going on. Fortunately, by the time light came, first dawn came in the morning, they found out they weren't all that far from the shore, 100 yards or maybe a little more. They were near the coast. They'd come aground on the coast near Cape Henry, Virginia.
As the light of day approached, local residents on shore could see the vessel was stranded and quickly sent people to rescue the passengers. The Beecham was roughly 100 yards from Virginia shore, just south of Cape Henry. Aided by African-American boatmen, the first black people they had ever seen spotted the vessel stuck offshore and helped the passengers and crew to safety. Most of the passengers' personal belongings were drenched, but were saved intact nonetheless. Many give credit to young Margaret Eris for saving their lives. She was heard praying for Christ to calm the waves and save his disciples from drowning. She was so scared of the thought of dying that she began to sing Martin Luther's "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." Unintentionally, her sweet voice helped to compose and calm the panicking passengers.
They all agree that Margaret Eris was she was a young lady of about 13 or 14, that she helped calm the passengers. They were scared, I mean, as any of us would be. They thought they were going to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. And so she helped to calm them by getting them started singing a hymn. But it did calm people down. They became more hopeful. And as it turned out, they were justified in their hope.
Arriving on the sandy shore, the passengers fell to their knees and thanked their liberators and their Redeemer for allowing them to survive such a grueling voyage. At that moment, the families vowed that they would give praise and thanks to God each and every year for their divine fate. While many of the families were taken in by nearby residents, others camped on the beach while they waited for help. Fortunately, the schooner George Washington was also in the area. The boat slowed to aid and pick up some of the passengers and cargo from the James Beecham. The Washington arrived in the port of Baltimore on September 22nd. Peter Arris and his family found another schooner and sailed on to Norfolk, Virginia. From there they went by steamship to Baltimore, arriving on September 24th. By the end of September, all of the passengers had arrived in Baltimore. They were later joined by the other ship from Bremerhaven, which arrived in October. Although their trip was long and a sluggish one, it was an uneventful one compared to the misfortune of the James Beecham. Soon after arriving, the new German-American immigrants found work in Pennsylvania as well as Chambersburg, Frederick, and Baltimore, Maryland. Although alive, many were penniless. They realized that their relocation to Ohio was becoming more problematic than anticipated. However, they were determined to work their way to Ohio. They were farmers and artisans with skill. They were able to find work and save their money to finance the final leg of their trip onto Ohio. Their expedition was periodically interrupted by illness and exhaustion from their journey. Needing money for the